Man, listen. I thought this woman was doomed to be banished into the shadow realm for the rest of her life. You know, and that's where she deserves to be. I thought she was going to be banished into the third pit of hell for the rest of her life, but it seems as though there's a possibility that the one and only Shanda Vander Ark, the cancer to the world, has a chance of having a new trial. Now, a couple of months ago, we reviewed something about Shanda Vander Ark, and it was like a pre-trial hearing or a pre-hearing about whether or not she was represented properly, and they were going to move forward. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they move forward, right? So Shanda Vander Ark, the child murderer, right? The one who ran a concentration camp in her house is coming back to the stand claiming that, oh, she was so fragile during that moment and she had so many blackouts that she wasn't fully represented properly and she didn't even know what was happening. The depression was overwhelming. Sometimes I didn't even know where I was. Man, listen. She even went as far as saying that when they started bringing up things about Timothy that she couldn't face it. They had to force her to come out. She was so discombobulated that they had to force her to come out and face her. Man, listen. This shit is outrageous. I don't know what about Shanda Vander Ark makes her feel as though she's special, but she's literally the opposite. Just because she has her little shitty degrees and all these little things that she thinks that she could be pretentious about, she thinks that she could march in here and scam another jury. That's not going to happen. I should say, try to scam a new jury. That's never going to happen, sweetheart. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you how it pretty much went. She had like a 16-minute segment with her attorney, and then prosecution just destroyed her. Absolutely destroyed her and made her look like an idiot. I will point out she's looking haggard than the motherfucker, bro. I don't know if her girlfriend's not treating her well in jail or something, but listen, I love that she came back to try and do this because now we get a checkup and see how she's doing after a couple of years in prison. It is really bad. Let's go ahead and check this out, man. Run the clip. All right, folks. So first and foremost, we have to remain fair, right? So let's hear what Shanda Vander Ark and the attorney that she has really speak about in terms of the trial that she had before this. They mainly point out her not having good enough conversation with her attorney at the time, and also her, frequent panic attacks along with her ADHD and MPHD and XPD and ZMPs and all the problems that she has in her brain, right? So let's check this out.
How often during this time period would you see Mr. Jackson? From the time that you're incarcerated to...
I think the first month I saw him 2 or 3 times, but after that it was every once in a blue moon. I think he said it was once every other month. It didn't even seem like that often.
During your conversations with him, were you talking trial strategy?
A little bit. We didn't a lot, but we did a little bit.
And I do want to point out, if you're seeing this guy every other... What did she say? Let me back that up real quick. I want to hear...
Trial strategy?
I want to hear exactly how often she saw him. Let me back that up for y'all.
I think he said it was once every other month. It didn't even seem like that often.
If you're seeing this guy once every other month, there's a problem. You see, listen, I always say it. If you don't have enough money to be committing crimes, don't commit the crimes. It seems simple to me. It seems a little simple to me. Don't commit. Listen, you're broke. You're a Dr. Pepper addicted failure, torturing your son in the process. Why would you do that? You don't have the money to be doing this. You know what I mean? I don't even see how she found the time to be doing this. This shit is crazy. I genuinely believe because Shanda thought that she was like this big time law clerk and she was probably eventually going to become an attorney or some bullshit, because she thought she was big time and smarter than everybody in her family or around in her surroundings, she thought she could get away with doing this shit. You dumbass. And now we're seeing the big law clerk, the big attorney, the big, the future attorney on the stand looking foolish than a motherfucker. And look at those braids. Jesus. That's what you call them, boneless braids right there.
During your conversations with him, were you talking trial strategy?
A little bit. We didn't a lot, but we did a little bit.
Was it ever, well, tell me what the strategy was.
Well, on the child abuse charge, it was intentionally and knowingly, and that was, without that, the felony murder charge was gone. And so that's where we focused. It was never on I didn't even realize second degree would be an option until the day of jury selection. So we focused on the intentionally and knowingly from that, because that cost the felony murder charge.
Did you know manslaughter was an option?
We never talked about second degree or manslaughter until the day of jury selection. It was on the jury instructions for second degree. And then the last morning, when I had the breakdown, I vaguely remember him coming in and saying he got these instructions added. And I had no clue what to say. I was in bad shape, so.
Well, tell me about, you testified.
Yes.
And tell the court how you felt during your testimony.
Well, before the testimony started, and this was one of the things that really shocked me, while the medical examiner was testifying, Fred was writing down questions. He had not had any questions.
Non-responsive.
Okay, so I'm going to cut it right there because they start to argue back and forth. But basically the idea is, the lawyer was unprepared. She was in bad shape. She was in no shape to be answering any questions in the first place. And, she had that explanation about she blacked out while, she can't remember texting her son to torture and ice bath her son at home. She can't remember. She claims to have had the same episodes during trial. So I only could assume that that's the reason why she would say, it's null and void. We need to do it again because I don't even remember where I was. I was in bad shape. We never even talked about manslaughter being an opportunity. Listen, you can't blame, well, I guess you could blame your outcome by saying that your attorney sucked, but you have to have strong evidence that he was incompetent. I highly doubt that this guy was incompetent. You just didn't have enough money to have a lawyer that was coming up every 2-3 times a week. That's what you wanted. You ain't got the money to do that. Maybe if you were a rich psychopath, you would have been able to do that, you psycho bitch. No, you're poor. Now you can't have no Dr. Peppers when that was the one thing, when it seems like that was the one thing that kept you happy. You can't even have that now. You crazy, you know what? Crazy world we live in. But let's move forward, right? Let's move forward. I want to move forward to, it's a certain section where it's not self-loathing. I know there's a point behind it. She talks about how, again, her mental health was not in the greatest area, and she starts talking about areas where she wanted to, to end the game completely for herself while she's in jail. This I do believe. I don't think she's lying. Somebody who's as narcissistic as her probably couldn't fathom being in the situation that she's in now. So she's going to try to explain that in this next coming clip. And it's almost like, ma'am, are you hearing yourself out loud? And do you remember or not what you did to your son? And obviously she's going to scream out she doesn't. Let's see what she had to say here.
How were you taken from the jail to the courthouse or courtroom?
Well, we went to, I guess, where I changed clothes, and that's as far as I got. We walked over there.
Okay. We heard, you were in the courtroom when we heard some testimony that you were curled up in a ball. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Oh, and she couldn't wait to say, yes, I was curled up in a ball. She always opened, but pay attention to her eyes too. Shanda thinks that just widening her eyes with the same expression is going to change something. So whenever she tries to convey something with her psychopath mind, she's like, yes, I was curled up in a ball. Yes. She always does that shit. She's a weirdo. I don't even know who found her attractive to get, let me not even go there. But let's keep it going, right? She was curled up in a ball.
Were you suicidal?
I don't remember saying it, but yes, apparently I made at least one comment that I was going to kill myself.
All right, I mean, sounds pretty drastic. What else do you remember from that morning?
I remember just being sheer panic. I was frozen, like I couldn't even move. I remember laying up against the wall on the floor on my side on one of the concrete benches in one of the holding rooms that they...
Look at her neck and her chin. They all connect in the same line. It's like neck, chin, lip. Damn, her face is just unflattering. It's just not, you call that a weak chin. And I'm not saying a woman should have a strong chin, but she doesn't even have, it's like her chin and her neck is just morphing into one thing. That might be the prison food. It's just all I could look at is like the wrinkle from her lip down to her chin, down to her neck. That's all I'm looking at. If you cut this part off right here and you're just looking at the bottom of her chin, it looks like a 90-year-old man's bottom of his neck right there. Like, get your hands and cover her face. And only leave the bottom half with her lip and her neck exposed. She is looking rough. She's looking like an 85-year-old man from the lips down. This shit's looking tough, bro. Anyways, what was she saying? She said something, oh yeah, she was curled up in the ball and she couldn't move. She was stressed out and shit. I wonder how Timothy felt. Let's keep it going.
They tried to come upstairs and I couldn't do it. And so I went in there and curled up in a ball on my side. I was completely paralyzed. My brain was not working. Anytime I even thought about anything, I wanted to panic, and I had several panic attacks during that time.
Wow.
Do you recall talking with Mr. Johnson during this time?
A little bit, yes, sir.
What was the nature of your conversation? Or was he talking to you, you talking back, or what was it, how was it going?
I remember at one point he came in and said that he had fought for a while to get the involuntary manslaughter instructions put on, and I remember thinking, what's that got to do with anything? And then I specifically asked him, after we tried to come upstairs, I said, look, can we please adjourn this? I can't do this today. And I asked him several times, and he made a comment. He said, oh, it'll just be the same way if we do that. You're gonna have the same issue. And then he said, well, we'll just go on without you, and then he left.
Do you recall signing the document?
No.
You've seen it since, though?
Yes, I have.
All right. Is that your signature or not?
I mean, it looks like it. It looks like a version of it.
Okay. But you don't recall signing?
So you see what she's doing, right? She's trying to make this a deadlock. We have to go back to court because, one, they did wrong, possibly. We're not saying he did it, right? But possibly someone did wrong. Maybe they forged your signature, or maybe I signed it and I just don't remember. My memory's all blotchy. I'm just a mess. I'm Miss Mushy Brain. I don't know. I was just a mess. I was curled up in a ball. Shut the fuck up. Man, this is probably top 10 worst human beings in the world. And imagine doing it to your own family. Like, wow. But anyways, let's push forward, right? Speaking of the medical condition, she's talking about just, being out of it and having panic attacks. But she actually has, besides the panic attacks, a medical condition to where the memory just doesn't even resonate with her. It's amnesia. Let's hear what she has to say. So we move forward a little bit. We're going to go to another section to where the opposition attorney wants to know exactly, we want to get more information about that condition, that medical condition that she has. Let's check this out.
Ms. Vander Ark, you've spoken quite a bit this morning about your medical, episode, for lack of a better term, medical episode that happened mid-trial. Okay, so I'm going to go into that. But that's not the first episode you had during these proceedings, correct?
No.
Okay. And one of those happened at your preliminary hearing, or your preliminary
Yes.
examination, correct?
Yes.
And that occurred just before Paul was going to testify at the prelim, correct?
I believe so.
And your medical episode that happened in the trial happened right when you'd been confronted during cross-examination, correct?
I had one other one before trial,
Oh.
during trial.
Okay, when was that?
There were some police officers testifying.
And it's
But
your.
I was sitting there and had a panic attack, and they cleared the jury out.
And do you recall what the officer was testifying about when you had that
I don't.
episode?
No, I don't.
Probably something pretty significant about your case, though, correct?
I mean, I would assume so.
Or something about your son's condition?
I don't know.
It's fair to say that those episodes, though, don't happen all the time.
They do, well, they were beforehand, and they still do happen consistently.
That's a poorly worded question, so I'll clarify here.
You notice how she's still smug? She's like, oh, well, that was a poorly worded question. My bad. Shonda's like, well, yeah. Yeah, it was a poorly worded question because I actually do still suffer that. Bitch, you don't suffer nothing but being a bitch syndrome. Being a bitch syndrome. That's what she suffers from, and she's been suffering from it her entire life. Man, bro. You know, when I think about her husband, her ex, I'm sorry, who had all those health issues, you never really know. Shonda might just be reaping the consequences for, well, her son included, but this might go way further back than we actually know. Who knows what Shonda did to her sisters and other people around her? Listen, this lady's just all around evil, just a nasty individual.
They do, well, they were beforehand, and they still do happen consistently.
That's a poorly worded question, so I'll clarify here. Those episodes didn't happen on direct examination with your own attorney questioning you, correct?
They didn't happen yet.
They didn't happen during opening statements
No,
or jury selection? No?
no,
They didn't happen during certain parts of your preliminary examination?
no.
But these episodes happen when you're confronted with evidence that you don't want to acknowledge or admit. Is that fair?
No, they happen when I was confronted with traumatic events. It was anything traumatic that got that bad.
So seeing your son, who was in your care for all those months, in a picture, was traumatic to you?
Yes, extremely.
But you'd seen him every day that he was in your care, correct?
Yes, what I remembered, yes.
No, what you remembered. I'm going to cut it right there because she's really on some bullshit. We're not, like, you know what I mean? We're not going to even indulge too much of that bullshit because in the police cam, you come out and Shonda's over there distraught. Oh my God, my baby's dead. Oh, I mean, he was doing a hunger strike. He looked a little thin, but he was just doing a hunger strike. You saw him every single day. Don't act like you're traumatized now. You had somebody at death's door in your closet for months, and it didn't bother you then. It probably smelled like death a little bit. It didn't bother you then. Crazy bit. Anyway, so we move forward, right? The lawyer grills even more and more, and then they go through a lot of technicalities with the judge, a bunch of boring shit. But then they move forward to the same situation that she's claiming to have had during trial, and then she connects it to Shonda having that same alleged condition while she was torturing her child. So let me show you another clip real quick.
Now, are you aware, though, in People's Exhibit 2, that criminal responsibility report that I previously placed in the record, that it was noted by the clinician that your claims of disassociating, quote, only occurred when Timothy was bad? Are you aware of that in the report?
No, I'm not, because that's not true.
Okay. And overall, the opinion of the clinician was that when you described your current state, you did not describe any substantial functional impairments within the context of your current confinement.
If I said that, that's not true.
Well, that was his opinion.
That was his opinion? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know he said that, but that's...
So basically, it's the perfect storm. You know, everything lined itself up perfectly for Shanda Vander Ark to be completely innocent. Nothing's her fault. She can't remember the dips in memory, right? Because of her condition, so she can't be held liable. She can't be held liable for it. And also, they keep grilling her, and they get to a point to where we talk about Timothy's conditions, right? Isolation in the closet, ice baths, all of this. Shanda claims that most of that stuff, the lack of food, she's still holding to the idea that Timothy did all of that to himself. Hunger strike by himself. Isolation by himself. Let's hear what she had to say.
You expect the judge to believe that Timothy did this to himself, correct?
Can you define this?
Well, that's what your testimony is
I'm
that
saying-
he isolated himself.
I said some of the time, and you said this. That's
Okay, I'll clarify. He isolated himself in that closet
some of the time. Some of the times downstairs,
where he had nothing but a tarp in there. He isolated himself in there. Is that your testimony?
he tore apart a mattress.
Well, golly, my autistic son tore apart my mattress. Therefore, I have to spread out a tarp for him. I mean, that's the solution. Man, that autistic bastard tore up his bed. Fuck it. I guess he has to sleep on the floor in his feces on some tarp in the dark in a closet. You see how it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse? This is a demon, a monster. You know, she's exercising her rights as an American, I guess. But all she's succeeding in doing is making herself look like even more of a terrible person.
Did he isolate himself in those ice baths?
I wasn't there for that.
But you ordered it, correct?
I don't remember.
You had a cell phone at the time this happened, right?
Yes,
And you were messaging with your other son, Paul, correct?
yes.
And those messages speak for themselves, right?
I'm not disputing the messages. I'm just telling you what I do and don't remember.
And that's pretty much all I wanted to show you guys. This is a monster, a demon who deserves to be in jail. And I love that jail is really sucking the life out of her. You know what I mean? Kind of like what she kind of did to a particular somebody. You know what I mean? Fuck Shanda. Rest in peace to Timothy, man. And, you know, I'll keep you guys updated on how this saga goes with her, you know, retrial attempt. I don't see any reality where she, you know, where she gets this popping off. I don't see it. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. As usual, man. Make sure you hype the video, subscribe, hit the like button. I love y'all, man. I'm going to see y'all real soon. Go check out my second channel. It's popping off over there. It's popping. It's popping the fuck off. All right, I'll see you. Peace.